I did point out that it was most likely to go the way it has gone. On the issues specifically, I did say that they were likely to go exactly the way they have gone. And I'm not surprised that it's done that way. There has always been, on the issue of admitting fresh evidence, yes, it is possible, but probability is a different question. On the issue of 25% of Abuja, of course, from day one, I had consistently said that is not the law. And what the Supreme Court has said now is the true position. The expectation, the intendment of the Constitution has expressed. I think that those things were just being taken out of context and too much energy was being devoted to them. I expected them to devote energy to proving the allegation of stolen votes, and if there were non-existing votes that were counted, you prove that to establish a claim that the election was won and that it was stolen and all that. So I think the Supreme Court judgment confirmed what I said earlier was likely to happen on each of those issues at the court to resolve.
Okay, so let's start with admitting evidence. I know you've explained this on two separate shows here on Hard Facts, but there's something the Supreme Court said that for one to be able to bring in fresh evidence, even from the Court of Appeal stage, it has to be within the 180 days mark, right? And then you would also have to apply for amendment, something of that nature. I think I had right, if I remember correctly. And then it also said that the evidence brought in by the PDP and its candidate, talking about forgery, was a separate, a new entire what do you call it now, situation that was not discussed at the Court of Appeal. Can you explain or expatiate further on that for us, please?
Well, in our last discourse on that, I explained that the role of the Supreme Court is to look at what was decided by the Court of Appeal, vis-a-vis the facts that were alleged by the parties or the facts that were proven before the court, and to determine whether the Court of Appeal was right in holding the position it took on those issues. So it's a review process, a supervisory process in which the court as a supervisor looks at what the last court did to determine whether that court was right or not. So where you have to bring in a fresh evidence, you are asking the court to do more than the supervisor's work. You are asking it to do original decision and not review a decision
from the lower court. Yeah.
So the circumstances in which it is grant that what the Supreme Court was explaining is circumstance where it can give go ahead for that to be used, in which case you will likely go back to the previous courts, amend your process and all that. So he's saying this is a time-bound proceeding that must be resolved within the time allotted by law, and there is no time for any such thing to be done. And so that in the circumstance, it would not accept the application for admitting that fresh evidence.
Now,
but as you know, the evidence to be admitted had nothing whatsoever to do with the rest of the case that was pursued at the Court of Appeal. So it's like starting a new thing altogether.
Now, yes, the matter is done, talking about the 2023 electoral process at the presidential level. However, this evidence sourced by Atiku and the PDP, can we say it is still useful, not in the immediate, but in the future? Is it still useful? Because the Supreme Court did not necessarily touch on it. So could it be used maybe in 2027 pre-election matters to disqualify the candidate?
Yes, when we spoke to that, I told you yes. Something that is not used now can be used later if it is established to be what it is alleged to be. And in that case, by that time, They won't wait until the matter has gotten to this level. They will bring it as a pre-election matter.
Okay.
Yes. So there will be no question of one thing or the other not happening or wrong timing and all that. They will have opportunity to raise it at the right time, under the right circumstance, and get pronouncements on it. So it's not the end of the road for anybody whose interest is ensuring that the current president does not have a chance of coming back. You have to go on and pursue and find whatever you want to find. Just make sure you are finding something that exists. Because if you look at even the application that was filed in the United States asking the court for approval that the agencies to release documents, it's talking of documents if they exist. Without certainty. And when the court that was approached for an interim order for immediate release of the things, ruled on it, it said, you are not even asking of something you know exists. You are saying something that may exist, that you believe may exist. So, if it is possible to find something that exists that constitutes a disqualifying factor, as I have said, you need to take steps to get whatever certificate of challenge notified on the grounds that it is not raised properly. It was not raised the way it was supposed to be raised.
All right.
And thereafter, you can now use it. You can now use it in the campus.
Okay.
But the other document remains very painful.
Sorry, Prof. We're not getting you clearly. I think the network is distorted. So can you repeat what you just said now, please?
Yeah, I said, again, if you want to use documents as a disqualifying factor, you will have the time between now and then to get the documents if they exist, and to possibly pursue another suit to get the existing certificate from TSU declared invalid. You have time to do all that, so that in invalidating that certificate, you can now come with the judgment of the court that proves that certificate invalid and apply it here. Otherwise, if you continue in 2027 to speak remotely, I mean on things that are remote and not directly related to what is going on here, you may face the same challenges.
All right.
So if they can confirm what they are alleging, get all the proofs, yes, in 2027 it can come handy to them.
Okay. Now let's move now to other issues mentioned in court. Talking about proving beyond reasonable doubt rather than focusing on non-compliance, because a lot of the arguments by the appellants, even when they were at the Court of Appeal, was this person did not qualify, INEC did not do this, INEC did not comply with this, and also saying that IREV is basically so that it can improve citizens' confidence in the electoral process, not necessarily a collation system. So what's your explanation? What's your thought about that one?
In a way, they are correct. First, we have to remember that even the law itself says that INEC non-compliance in itself may constitute an offense, and INEC staff may even commit an offense, but that will not affect the outcome of the election. So, bearing that in mind, the level of confidence you place on the argument of INEC failing to do a particular thing, I think ought to be moderated by that realization that there is a provision of the law. So, in the circumstance, I mean, it should have been something different. And the position of the other.
Hello, are you there? The network is terrible. Are you there, Prof? Can you hear me, Prof? All right. We would try re-establishing the connection with the professor of law, River State University, talking about Barrister Ritchard Nwokocha, and we're looking at some of the judgments that emanated from the Supreme Court, talking about 25% of the FCT, talking about IREV, talking about some other issues. And when we get back Okay, when we get back the connection with our guest, I would ask this question. But you listening, you watched the live broadcast of the transmission, probably, or you must have read about the judgment, or you must have come across one way or the other the judgment of the Supreme Court. What is your impression? What is your impression about the Supreme Court judgment? That's the question I want to ask. So while I'm trying to get back to my guest, I'd like to hear from you and like to hear your thoughts and what you're thinking. 08179230002 and 08179230003. What's your impression? What's your impression of the Supreme Court judgment that was done earlier today? WhatsApp number 0809-0306-416. Once again, 0809-0306-416. Remember, we're live on Facebook, Nigeria Info PH. We're active on X, Nigeria Info PH, and we are live on YouTube, Nigeria Info PH. Clinton is calling from Bori. Clinton, greetings, welcome. What is on your mind?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah. The prof have succinctly explained virtually the rule is taken by the Apex Court today.
Okay.
I think it's very clear.
All right.
If talking about the 25% FCT, I think a common man can give judgment on that. The FCT is just like every other state. So that has been dealt with completely by the Appeal Court. So I think the Apex Court just only re-emphasize on it.
All
then
right.
on the IREF, that is where I have issue. Because the statement of INEC on the media was that election results were transmitted in real time. But that was not taken into consideration because it was not legislated.
All right.
So that's the problem. That is where we have to look at.
All right then.
So going forward, I want to congratulate the president and ask and request that he focus now on governance and revisit some of the policies that have been deemed anti-people.
All right.
Because the feeling now in Nigeria is that things are hard.
All right.
So he should ensure that he gives Nigeria the good government. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Clinton. I have been able to re-establish connection with my guest, Barrister Ritchard Nwokocha, Professor of Law, Rivers State University. Welcome back on the show. All right, the network was terrible for a bit there. So I was asking to explain IREV not being a collation system.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were on that when the line went off.
Yeah, of course.
IREV is a portal, but if you look at the law did not talk of IREV. And when we discussed earlier, even what the matter was still before the Court of Appeal, and I said, we need to look out for that fact that the law did not say you must transmit in real time or from the station. The law said after collation, the results should be transmitted to collation center. So the insistence on electronic transmission was not exactly the language of the law, and I was saying that is likely to provide a window for those who did not comply with direct transmission. So I think that is the same thing that they have said in the Supreme Court. IREV is a portal where INEC intends to upload information so that citizens' confidence will be increased or will be improved on the process to enable citizens monitor. But that is not where the law said we will find a result.
But then again, Prof,
Yes.
I just spoke with a caller now, and the caller reminded me of what INEC said at the time. You know, part of his regulations, it was that they would... Go ahead.
Between INEC state and the law, which one do you think the courts will enforce?
But the Electoral Act also says that INEC has the right, the power, the authority to pick certain ways or processes that the election would go.
Because this matter was before the Court of Appeal, I stated to you the case of Jason Wike versus Peter Side and others. The Supreme Court has always made it clear that where there is a conflict between the provision of the Constitution and any other provision. Whether there is a difference between INEC Act provision or between regulation provision and it, the courts will stick with what the Constitution says. And that was what happened in that case. The non-use of BVAS for the
IREV
card reader.
Okay.
To accredit the people who voted, but who voted or were said to have voted and register was ticked as required by the law, was held by the court to be compliance with the requirement of the law for voting. So the fact that the card reader was not deployed and INEC said there will be no use of incident form did not change the position of the law. Anybody who is going for a process ought to have equipped himself by what the position is as defined by the courts in the past. So I think if anybody had the hope that on the grounds that INEC made a promise that was not kept, that the law would be changed, I am afraid that was not a reasonable expectation.
All right.
INEC may have failed. That would be failure of INEC, but the law has not changed.
Okay. The best way that the appellants could have used to prove their cases would have been to prove with polling unit results, I guess. To prove that in XYZ center, these were the scores or voting did not happen. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, so even from what the Supreme Court has said now, if you are alleging that scores were this at so and so place and it became a different thing when it got to another place, it is those who were at the point where the score was found that will have evidence, will give evidence of what they saw, what they know, things of which they have personal knowledge. Any other person will be given transmitted information. I was told that, which is hearsay. And that's the position the court took in that matter. All
right, then. Let's get quickly to the 25% of FCT. I mean, a lot of lawyers have debated on that. Nigerians have talked about it as well. And then the Supreme Court, today said this is not the first time it is given a ruling on that. And that the Constitution is very clear on this, that Abuja may be the federal capital territory, but it is like a state when it comes to electoral processes. Can you expatiate on that?
Area.
Yeah, can you expatiate on that, please?
Well, on pain of repetition, I've always said I did not see the need for that argument. Nigeria is comprised of 36 states, the federal capital territory that is extraterritorial to the states. So if the Constitution is talking of voting which takes place in the entire Nigerian state, it will mention the state and mention Abuja. Otherwise, the votes cast at Abuja will become void votes because they are not countenanced by the law. In doing that, the Constitution did not mean that Abuja has a special status. And I've always said there is no basis in the first place for that impression. That would mean that you are saying that cast by one person in Abuja is higher than votes cast by an entire local government in Rivers State. That is not, that cannot be said to be related to democracy anywhere. Democracy is always a leveler. One man, one vote. The richest man's vote is equal to the vote of the poorest man. The law requires only the highest number of votes for a person to win. So there was no basis in the first place for it. The language of the Constitution, for me, clearly indicated that it was saying that you need to win 2/3 of the combination of the 36 states and the federal capital territory, which is not part of the states. When we had under the 1979 Constitution, Lagos was capital, Lagos was a state. There was no need to add federal capital territory. That provision ended there with the states. But because we developed a federal capital territory, a special territory carved out from states that is independent of any state, the Constitution simply added that place for votes there to count. There was no basis for all the hula we had about it, and I maintain that position throughout.
Now, I like what you've just said because it wants to help me with my next question. There was a press briefing not too long ago done by the Labour Party, and they did say something in this line that the executive and judiciary and even the arms of government have been hijacked. That's how they put it. That's how I saw the headline. And a lot of Nigerians on social media, even before now, were carried away with the fact that they believe that 25% of Abuja was necessary to win the election. They also said and argued at the time that IREV was necessary to the credibility, or was pivotal to how the results came out in the final stage. So the question then is, did the lawyers of the appellants contribute to the current volatile situation that we have, given how Nigerians and even these parties, these opposition parties, view the judicial system or the judicial arm of government? Do you think the lawyers did not do a thorough job, or I don't know? But what do you think about the job of the lawyers in this legal procedure?
You asked this question why this matter was decided by the Court of Appeal, or before that?
I think before that.
And I told you I am a bit worried about whether the lawyers are leading their clients or the clients are leading the lawyers. It is the duty of the lawyer to advise his client on the true position of the law.
Okay.
If people who are not lawyers had the impression that and Abuja and Federal Capital Territory Abuja means this, the lawyer should be able to look at the law, look at existing decisions that have been made in the past, and advise the client, and not to dance along the line of generality of claims or statements on social media. I honestly at that time expressed my worry that I don't think the lawyers were leading their clients. It appeared to me that they were rather allowing the client's sentiments to lead them. Because you must separate sentiment from the law when you are discussing the law, especially on a critical matter like election and the electoral victory. I thought focus should have been more on critical issues that will establish the claim, and not on those mundane interpretations of the law, the status of which has not changed.
All right. Okay, so let's take some calls. Let's open the phone lines and maybe entertain questions and contributions. The numbers are 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp number 0809-0306-416. There is a question here. It says, assuming FBI releases the awaited documents and it confirms the allegations against Tinubu, will the citizens continue to be ruled by, you called a couple of crimes, as the case may be? From body language of the Supreme Justices on the day article sought to present new discoveries, it seemed the evidence from CSU is true, hence rejecting it before today's ruling. Victor from Egbema. I think we've touched on that. There is nothing these documents can do for the now, right?
No, there's nothing they can do for now. Legal processes are governed by two rules: procedural rules and substantive rules. No matter how beautiful a case is, if you don't present it before the courts cannot stay on their own and give you judgment. So there is a procedure for doing those things, and you have to follow those procedures. Otherwise, what you are trying to bring is not before the court. Citizens need to understand that. So it's not a question of blocking. If a thing comes in at the wrong time or in the wrong way, it cannot be said to have come in the way anticipated by law.
All right.
So it's not any other thing. Procedural.
All right, then. Keep those calls coming in. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. WhatsApp messages, you go to the number 0809-0306-416. Hello, what's your name? Oh my goodness me. All right, keep those messages pouring in. This one says, I am not happy about today's judgment. Suffering continues. No good thing will come from the administration, or entirely your opinion. This one says, in 2027, President Tinubu will still be on the seat as the president of Nigeria and covered by immunity. Based on that, can a case be brought against him in respect of the certificate saga? Elder Opus. I don't think a case will be brought against him, but I think it may be used to disqualify that if there is any, good evidence, it may be used to...
Yes, there's no disqualifying evidence.
Yes. It will be used to disqualify him, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
All right,
so
then.
Far, there is none that is ready for use.
Okay, then. All right. The Otong Sunday on Facebook says, my impression about the ruling by the Supreme Court is bad. In fact, I knew nothing will come out to counter the outcome of the Tribunal Court ruling. Court is not the hope of the common man. Daniel is calling from Omuma. Let's listen to Daniel. Daniel, good afternoon. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, I greet you. Welcome.
Yeah, Daniel from Omuma.
All right, welcome.
I have said it earlier that what Article and Obi is looking for is who won 2023 presidential election. Apart from that, they don't have any other case. If they have any other case, when they finish one, they enter into one. Another issue. And before this time, Tinubu has been a governor of Lagos State for 8 years. No person find out in this country that Tinubu is not a son of this country called Nigeria. Neither he forged his certificate. Tinubu went under screening and INEC and DSS during his primary before the presidential election. What they are contesting is who won the election, 2023 election, not back day, neither forgery of certificate.
All right, then.
On this issue, I told you that many of them have skeleton in their cupboard. Even the people in the judiciary, I mentioned it loud and clear. That apart from Almighty God, no one is innocent in this planet Earth. So, on this perspective, I congratulate Tinubu and Atiku and Peter Obi to join hands with him and move Nigeria forward.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Daniel, I've got to go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've got to go. Origi from Ogbogu, welcome on the show. What is on your mind, please?
Yes, greetings to your guest, Professor Nwokocha.
Thank you.
People like Nwokocha continue to come and tell us about elections and the court.
Okay.
People does not understand something that if you carry any business, go to government. No, Tinubu has really won the election. And he has also defeated them in the lower court and higher court. Let all of us pray for him to lead the country well. Instead of going to cause one problem or other.
All right.
If all these boys making noise hear what is called Amon car, call they will not talk about war. They will not talk about going to do any nonsense. Let us manage it. The country will be good tomorrow. That is all. Thank you. Let Professor Nwokocha always come to station and advise us. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. He has heard you, and I believe he will always come when we call him. Elomba from Atilari, welcome.
I greet you.
Yeah, welcome.
Galada, this is Elomba.
Welcome.
I want to get a beg to explain to us what the Constitution means by 25%, because it seems that they are fallen out to be generally known. So then they said that know the law. This is a professor of the law.
But he just explained. He just explained for us. He explained for us not too long ago.
Yes, he explained for us because the place, except a candidate is won 25% in Abuja, which now fall out of the place.
Okay.
So they should be able to come back there, explain to Nigeria what that means. Cannot just leave it in isolation. Say this is like this now. It's not what I did. And they did not tell us what that place means, so that we'll keep without beating around the bush, looking at that place as if it's a practicable something. Maybe something that we don't know. That place has to be dealt with now and be able to make people to have confidence on that constitution, because that place mentioned election and also mentioned 25%. If you flip it like this, it becomes the child's friend.
All right, Prof. Yet again, you're being called to explain 25% of FCT.
Well, practically that provision said for a person to be declared winner, he has to have had the highest number of scores in a contested election if there are more than one candidate. He has to have had the highest number. And then he has to have also won at least one quarter of the votes cast
in each of at least 2/3 of the 36 states of Nigeria and the Federal Capital Territory. Is that you have to win the highest number of, and you have to win at least 2/3 of the territory of Nigeria, comprises of the 36 states and the unit of states. So if we were to win 54, that would have been enough for the 36 states. But because we have 37 units, the state and the Federal Capital Territory, so be on the same, you need and then you want more than 2/3.
All right, then.
And incidentally, in this case, the 3 candidates all scored 1 up to 28 units.
All right. Let's take another call. God's Will is calling from Elime. Oh, my, I missed that one. Let's go to Facebook. Jimbo Baraye Caribon Nelson says, democracy is generally defined as the government of the people, for the people, and by the people in the context of Nigeria. It does not fit into any of the aspects noted above due to the inconsistent judicial system, which is a continuous derailment of our weak democratic process since 1999 by the ruling party. Jimbo Baraye Caribon Nelson from Ogutown. Do you agree that this is a decline in our democratic process? I mean, from your legal knowledge, what would you say about this whole process?
Why the letters of the law are the way they are? I cannot agree that this is a derailment of the process.
Okay.
Because what we have seen is an attempt to create a disqualification after the game has been played, result has been announced, and all that. It would have been more like that if there were clear evidence of forged votes or suppressed votes and all that. I mean, stolen votes that were not counted and all that. And the thought said that it doesn't matter, we have to go ahead. Then we could have said, yes, it has that effect. But this argument has been on things that happened long ago and attempting to bring it in and to use it to disqualify the vote, disqualify the declared winner in order to change the outcome of the election.
All right.
So I wouldn't say that anything, that the courts have done anything that detracts from the intendment of the law with respect to the democratic process in Nigeria.
All right, let's listen to Sita, who's calling from Artillery. Sita, welcome on the show. What is on your mind? Please, let's hear you.
Yeah, Canada. This whole thing leaves me just one impression, and that impression is that sometimes I begin to wonder, do we have, is it court of justice that we're supposed to have, or court of logic, or both? Yeah, people are quick to say morality is not law. But I keep asking this question. So, assuming even that judge who was reading those things, assuming I killed his son. So, and then it was obvious that I did it. And if I had my way in court with logic, I would just go and then he would tell me, thank you, well done. And it's obvious that I killed his son. And I believe that there are certain things that should be looked at and look at it differently. The Supreme Court, like they say, is part of policy or whatever they say. If we have such kind of evidence against who is supposed to be our leader, I expect them to be asking questions on that. I'm not just saying,
are you saying, now let me come in now, Sita. Are you saying the Supreme Court should go against the laws that made the Supreme Court just because you want your evidence to be looked at? Is that what you're saying? You're saying the Supreme Court should become lawless to be able to interpret the law?
And that's why I asked the question I said, I'm confused. So if I kill that judge's son, you understand, and because I didn't bring the evidence on time, I didn't bring it on time. So the judge will not say, okay, no problem, I'm not the one that killed the son. Even when he knows, and probably he saw me did it. You understand? That's why I said I'm confused.
All right then. Thank you very much, Osita. My guest to look at what you've raised. Emeka from Owerri, quickly, what is on your mind, please?
Good evening, my brother.
Yeah, greetings to you.
If you ask me, what Nigeria, if you understand Nigeria before now, even if you can take the other way, decide the other way around, some people will justify. Whichever way they take, you must see justification from somebody somewhere. The glitches the INEC chairman told us that has not been explained to Nigeria. Every damn thing that telling us in fact, let me tell you, Canada, everything has been determined even before the election in 2020 March. Before the presidential election, everything has been determined. You see how the
Emeka, that's an allegation that you cannot prove, so you shouldn't be saying it on the show, and I wouldn't let it, please. That is when you say it was predetermined, can you prove that it was predetermined? If it was predetermined, then why did your preferred party and candidate participate in the election if it was predetermined? These are the issues.
Canada, let me ask you a question. The Abuja, they say all states, including Abuja. Why didn't you say all states, including Rivers?
Because Rivers is a state. Rivers is a state. Okay.
Why did they put it that way?
All right. Emeka, let me ask you a question. Emeka, wait. Did you listen to the Supreme Court judgments?
When I told you yesterday.
Okay, fine. You did not listen. Now let me tell you, the Supreme Court. Now, Emeka, listen.
Let me tell you. I'm telling you, I was saying it. I did not bother to listen to that.
Now, can you listen to me now, Emeka? There is no time. All right, then. Thank you very much for your time. Now, for those of you who did listen, you must have heard the judge say that this is not the first time that they are ruling on that matter. I don't want to believe I'm the only one who had that stuff. So even before this election, that matter had been decided by the Supreme Court. And I heard the judge say that he did not understand why that the lawyers will bring up such a topic yet again, given the fact that it's been decided upon once upon a time by the Supreme Court. Anyways, let's try to get back to my guest. I think I did lose connection yet again. It's crazy network today. But let's see. I'll be taking some more messages. This one says, for me, since President Tinubu is innocent of the certificate forgery, I think Ms. Mesoma is also innocent of jam forgery. # justice for Mesoma, Christian William from Igboiche. All right. No problem. This one says, greetings, Kalada. I have been listening to the prof and I want him to reconcile the reason why Abuja doesn't have our own elected governor and state house of assemblies like other states of the federation. But if Andy Eleniwo, my lawyer friend, is not here, but I can even answer the question. If you know very much about your constitution, you would see where it was talking about the FCT, or if you can, go to your app store and download the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and search for FCT. Just do a search on the Constitution app and do FCT, and you will see where the Constitution described the FCT and said it would be treated, or it shall. I think Constitution is very serious with the choice of words. So it shall be treated like a state. It's written there in the Constitution. It shall be treated like a state. And then the president shall be like the governor of Abuja, and the National Assembly like the House of Assembly members. I would wait for the lawyer to call in or to come back on the show, and then we'll treat that matter. But while I'm waiting, maybe I should go back to the phone lines in 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. Let's take some more calls and let's talk for development. I think the guest is back on the phone. Okay. Welcome back, Prof.
Yeah, thank you.
The network is crazy today. Network does. I don't know if it's because of the Supreme Court judgment, but the network. So before I take another call, someone sent a message from Ellen Wall, and he said he wants to understand something. He said if we should treat Abuja like another state, why don't Abuja? Why is it that Abuja does not have a governor? Or why is it that they don't have a House of Assembly members?
The Constitution clearly says it's a special territory, Federal Capital Territory. It's an administrative territory.
Okay.
The Constitution provides for how Abuja is to be governed. It says it should be governed by the president, who presides over the federal administration.
Okay.
That is the provision of the Constitution. it should be administered by the president, who should exercise the executive powers, and that the national legislature should make laws for Abuja, the special territory, the administrative territory.
Okay.
And then the fact you have a FCT High Court, which is special court established by the Constitution for the Federal Capital Territory. That should take care of judicial matters. So, I mean,
all right.
The Constitution has said how it should be, so it doesn't need to be done differently.
All right, let's take some
and
more calls.
I think there are unlimited arguments on whether it should be a state or not be a state.
All right, then. Chukuma is calling from Port Harcourt. Hello, Chukuma. Welcome on the show.
Yeah, Kalada, good evening. I want to contribute to the discussion that is going on.
All right, let's hear your thoughts then.
I wanted to know why Supreme Court dismissed the certificate issue on the ground that there are two conflicting information from CSU. Why wouldn't they
Sorry, Chukuma, was that the ground on which the Supreme Court rejected the evidence, or was it on the ground that the time for submission of new evidence, was far gone? Which is it?
What I read is that there are conflicting information from CSU. I think one information they say the certificate is from them. In the other, they say that it didn't come from them.
That's not the reason why. That's not the reason why the evidence was rejected. That's not the reason. The reason was the 180 days elapsed sometime in September, and also that the Supreme Court cannot entertain a new case, a new situation that was not discussed at the Court of Appeal stage. So that's what happened. I don't know if
Okay, so my question now is that if one decides to take up that case afresh, like de novo, will they entertain it?
But there's a problem now. The Constitution gives immunity to the president, so you can't take the president to court.
Okay.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time there. Prof. Now, someone called in earlier and talked about logic and morality and the law. What's your take on that? I remember he was saying, so if he killed someone's son, and just because there is the time limit for submission of evidence, would the court allow the person to walk free? He was just trying to give an analogy as to what happened in the Supreme Court. Can you explain that for us, please? Logic, morality, and the law. Can you hear me, Prof? It's still a crazy network. Prof, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so I was asking, a caller called in earlier and talked about morality, logic, talking.
Logic, yeah.
So can you talk briefly on that before we wrap the show up?
Logic and morality very often coincide with the law.
Okay.
But where there is a conflict, the law is the law that you and I determined will govern our activities. And so logic and morality, which sometimes can be quite imprecise because morality in one place, what is moral in one place to be immoral in another.
Okay.
Same-sex relationships between the West and the Southern Hemisphere. We have completely different moral opinions about it. So where there is a difference between morality, logic, and the law, it is safer to stick to the law, which is what we, through our representatives, agree will govern our activities. So the law is what prevails when there is conflict between them.
All right. On Facebook, Michael Kolade says, most people will comment and speak out of emotions and not really about the truth and facts about the whole process. The truth is Atiku and Obi never had a tangible case. They are just being controlled by their desperate ambition. Atiku and PDP failed the day Obi decamped to Labour Party. The Nigeria judiciary should be held for the judgment. It's constitutionally and lawfully not be adjusted. Osia Mani said from the Supreme Court, is it not shocking that of the detention of all promises made as the result? Don't get that promise. The reason because said the equal he says Nigeria. I can't read that. I'm really sorry, but let's take some messages from WhatsApp. This one says, Atiku and Obi failed Nigerians with their personal ambition. Instead of standing together against Tinubu before the elections, they divided their strength and weakened their chances together, thereby giving Tinubu the advantage. It will continue to be the case as long as we don't know how. Kalada, good afternoon. Kalada, I'm not surprised about the judgment in the sense that Atiku should have presented the evidence at the tribunal and that of the Court of Appeal and not at the Supreme Court. Kalada, to me, that is why the Supreme Court struck out the Atiku petition. In pre-election matters, all your evidence should be presented at the tribunal. I think you mean court of pre-election. You said tribunal, and that of the appeal, not in the Supreme Court. If you can remember, one of the judges described the Atiku petition as a friendly joke. That is his way of saying that the CSU evidence should have been presented at the tribunal and not the Supreme Court. Valentine Alalibo from Abonima. Prof, time is fast spent. 1 hour is not enough, and I do understand you have another engagement with our headquarters in Lagos. So can you quickly tell me your final words, please?
Well, every contest is a contest. Sometimes useful information come our way. Long after we have used it, the best that can be done now is for us to settle down and see what can be done about fixing the economy. On the long run, that's the challenge that faces all of us, notwithstanding the party we belong to, or whether or not we are political. So I think that is where we are now. We turn to governance, and anybody who is convinced that he has something useful that could have led to a different result if it had come in at the proper time, it is gunpowder dry against 2027.
All right, then, against 2027 it is. Thank you very much, Barrister Ritchard Nwokocha, Professor of Law, Rivers State University. Thank you for your time and your knowledge.
It's a pleasure with you always. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, then. This conversation will continue at the 6 o'clock hour. That's after the major news at 6, when you and I will do open season if we have enough time and not bound by commercial breaks. But hey, we'll talk about this. But up next, you must have heard this sad story. It happened in Port Harcourt. The young, beautiful girl who was a student of the University of Port Harcourt until her death. And we're going to be looking at that conversation, and we'll look at it from all the possible angles. Do stay tuned. I will be right back after the news updates.